Hi, I'm Ryan Krokor, a program manager on the Azure Document DB team. In this video, we're going to touch on why document databases have become so popular. And then we're going to take a look at a very high level at what Azure Document DB is and what we believe sets it apart from the rest. Then we're going to kill PowerPoint and spend the rest of the time in Visual Studio playing with code. At the end, we'll come back and I'll show you some resources that will get you started and help you learn some more. So, why the need for NoSQL and why the need for document databases? You know, we've been building applications forever using relational databases, and it's been going really, really well. So why do we want to do something different? I'll tell you why. The applications we're building today are not your father's applications. What do I mean by that? Well, the applications we build today produce and consume data like never before. And with the adoption of things like the Internet of Things, where my toaster is connected to the internet, this problem is only going to get worse. You know, when I started developing applications back in the day when I still had hair, you know, we used to spend the first few months of a project just planning and designing. You know, we'd build these detailed specs, we'd do these data models, and we'd lock it all in stone, and from there we'd actually build the application out from this database schema. And that was it. You know, it was locked in stone. That's what we were going to build. If you wanted to change something, you had to lodge a change request in triplicate, and if you were lucky, stuff would get changed in about a year or so. Well, we don't build applications like that anymore today. You know, things happen much, much quicker. And because of these reasons, and a whole stack more, you know, people have started exploring other ways of doing things. And one of the most popular ways was to make use of these flexible databases that didn't impose schemas on you, where the developer drove the data model, not the DBA. But these databases come with their own problems. They often lack rich query support. They have no concept of multiple document transactions. They typically run with eventual consistency only, if you're actually hoping to run at any kind of a scale. Okay? All these things with these new databases have resulted in application developers having to do a lot more in their code to handle things like inconsistent reads. You know, you'd end up storing your data multiple times in different formats to get around the lack of secondary indexes. And then you'd have to worry about how do you keep all of this stuff in sync. So with many of the existing NoSQL databases, application developers had a lot more to worry about. And it was a lot of stuff that they arguably shouldn't have to worry about. They should just be worried about building their application. And lastly, applications today grow fast or die fast. Okay. If the application you built in your mother's basement one night suddenly goes viral, you want to know that your app will not be a victim of its own success. You need to be able to easily scale out your infrastructure to handle this load while still living in your parents' garage. Equally, if you put your great app out there and the world ends up thinking it's not quite as great as you thought it would be, well, you don't want to end up with a bunch of really expensive hardware sitting in the garage, and having that stuff go to waste. So, when we set out to build Document DB, we had a number of goals in mind. In fact, 3 major ones that we really wanted to nail. First, fully managed and delivered as a service. So you just worry about your great idea, and we take care of the rest. Secondly, scalable. So if you build the next Tinderbook Reddit, okay, you just keep adding capacity, and we keep kind of giving you more stuff to use. And we really wanted to deliver on the promise of schema-free. Okay? Not only allowing you to store data in any structure you like, but also be able to query on those differencing schemas without having to do anything first. So if we have a look at what sets it apart from the rest, we believe it's these kind of key concepts here. The one is about this notion of querying over schema-free data. We've built something that really, really delivers on the promise of schema-free. Okay. You insert your document, and you immediately be able to query on any field in that document, knowing we've indexed your entire thing for you automatically. Okay. We've really delivered on the promise of transactions across documents. Now, you can take gold from your player document, decrement stock on hand of the inventory document, and update your player inventory all within one asset transaction. So it either all happens successfully, or it all rolls back and nothing changed. These are the things that you expect to be able to do with a database. We do a bunch of stuff for you when it comes to indexing, but if what we've done doesn't necessarily suit your particular application, we give you the control to be able to tweak this, to be able to get the best performance out of the system for your application. And finally, we built this as a service. Okay? And you can really see this when you look at how you can kind of increase and decrease the capacity in these small incremental chunks. You know, how we take care of things like high availability and backups. All those things are because we built this as a service. You just worry about building the next big thing, we keep the lights on, and we water the plants for you. So now let's kill PowerPoint, dive into Visual Studio, and take a look at some code. So here we are in the preview portal. So DocumentDB you will find in the preview portal. Here I've got an account provisioned already. So if I click on the provisioned account and I pick the account, you can see if you scroll down, there's a database. So if I select a database, once the database loads up, if you scroll down, you'll see I've already got a collection. And if you scroll down on the collection, you can get to this thing called the Document Explorer. And if I click on the Document Explorer, you will see there's the documents that are currently in that collection. So I have some documents that I've preloaded. And there you can see a document. So typically this little app that I'm going to build is a event management application. And these are my sessions. So you can see, it's got a session type, a code, a title, and an abstract. Okay, nothing fancy there. Well, let's jump into Visual Studio and go and have a look at that application in a little bit more detail. So the first thing that we want to start off with in an MVC application is the model part, right? So this model is a session and it extends from our base type. And I've added this property on here called a type. And the reason I do that is because a collection isn't a table. So you don't only have to store session objects in a session collection. You can store sessions, rooms, speakers, tracks, evals, all of that kind of stuff can go together into a collection. And this is just an easy way for me to then be able to go and say, well, give me all sessions or give me all rooms. And then I've got a few kind of standard properties, nothing fancy on that at all. And then if we go to controller, this is just a scaffolded controller that Visual Studio put in for me. And I've then gone and added in some extra stuff. So I'm using this thing called a DocumentDB repository, which is just a class that I've coded up. And it's just got some generic helper methods in here that I'm going to use. So like if you look at get list, it takes in a generic type, and then I use that type's name over here to add on a where clause that says I'm only looking for documents of that type. And that's simple. And if you kind of go down, there's some other helper methods in there about getting reference to the database and setting up the connection, opening the client, and that kind of stuff. So if we run this little application now, so our application comes up, and you can see there's my list of sessions, and those sessions, without a surprise, match the documents that you saw in the portal. I can come in here now, and I can kind of create a new document. So I can give it a name. I can call it that. I can call DocumentDB hello world, and some abstract. Cool, and I can create that, and you can see that document actually got created. And if you jump back to this and you refresh your Document Explorer, you will see the new document down there, and you will be able to see the document down there, and you'll be able to see the JSON that we sent across the wire to save that. So that's our simple little application. There's a lot more to managing an event than just some sessions. So let's see how easy it is to kind of gradually extend this application. So what I want to do now is I want to go and add some extra models. So I want to now start modeling additional kinds of data. And I've got a couple of additional models which I've pre-baked. They've been in the oven for a while. So that's room and session. So if I and go and look at room, you'll see nothing special about this. Same as resource. It's now just got a different type on it, and it's got some properties. Speaker, it looks very, very similar as well. If I come along to the session, what I actually want to do is I want to extend my session now, and I want to actually say session is going to have a room ID, okay, and it's going to have a speaker on it too. So of type speaker, okay, and we're going to do this. And you'll see two slightly different behaviors here. One, I've chosen to create a weak reference to a room document by its ID, and the other I've chosen to embed the speaker document itself inside of the session. And there's a reason for that, and it comes down to how the data model works and the relationships between sessions and rooms versus sessions and speakers. The one is a many-to-many, and the other ones are one-to-many, so that's why I choose to model my data this way. But I can model it anyway, and because it's a flexible schema, you will get away with whichever suits your application best. So I've done that. What I want to do is I want to add a room controller. Okay, so I've already got a controller that I've built. So if I go back and go to the controller, there's the room controller. And again, nothing special about the room controller. It's just the scaffold that it came out with. I added the document DB repository, and I'm calling my generic method. And this time you'll see I'm passing in things like room rather than session, so that my repository knows to include only documents of type room. All I now need to do is come down and create some views for a room. So I've already got some views, which you'll find over here. All right, so those are the views. And then what I want to do lastly on the session itself, on the edit view of that session, I want to go in here and I just want to extend this and add on 2 extra fields. The one is the ID of the room, and the other is the name of the speaker. Now, you would, if you were building a proper UI, you would find some great UI wisdom to be able to, create the whole speaker object. I'm just going to create the name for now because it's easier, and my UI skills are limited. So if we save all of that, we've added a model, we've changed the model, we've added a controller, we've added some views, we haven't touched the database, and run my application now. There we have my list of sessions. If I come across to rooms, well, there aren't any rooms because we've just added that ability for our application. So let's call this Studio 2157. Capacity, it's a small studio, and it's in building 25. And say create. And there you go. I've now created a new type of document in my database without touching my database at all. And even better, if I come across to session and I pick an existing session, I can go in here and I can put in, we call that Studio 2157, and my name is Ryan, and I say save, and we've edited an existing document, added new properties to it, and we haven't touched the database at all. So we've added a new room, we've edited an existing session without changing anything in the database, just in our application. If I now jump back to Doc Explorer one last time and refresh this, you'll see there's the room that we added. And if I pick the session that we edited, you can see that without changing anything in the database, just making application changes, there is the new information on my session that's been added. And now you'll see if you look at one of the old sessions, it doesn't have that new information, and the new session has a whole bunch of new information. So I've got sessions now with different kinds of schemas, but that's okay because that's what a flexible no schema document database like Azure Document DB gives you. So I hope you've seen from that quick demo how easy it is to be able to extend your application and iteratively add features to your application without being bound to a strict database schema. Okay, so I hope that whet your appetite for what Azure Document DB can do for you. If you're eager to learn more about Azure Document DB, here are a few resources that will really help. Firstly, the Azure Document page gives you loads of detailed information about the service. Then, documents and tutorials, jam-packed with great documentation and some tutorials to get you started. The .NET samples that we've posted on MSDN explore every single method and go into extreme detail about how to use every method. We could never possibly do that in a video like this. And finally, if you want to know more about what the product team is up to and be the first to hear about new features, well then check out our team blog and follow us on Twitter. And as they say in the movies, that's a wrap, folks.